heal. Do you have any concerns with, we eat a lot of fat on a carnivore diet, and then we eat a lot of, some people are using also carbohydrates for energy, and there's two sources of energy. Do you think it's a concern long-term for people eating a meat-based diet, adding a lot of fructose, for example, or, some other form of sugary carbohydrates?
I mean, I certainly can see where there's a potential concern for that. I mean, I think that, and again, it depends, probably some of it depends on the dose, right? I mean, many of these things, the dose makes the poison. So you have to consider that. I mean, there's animal studies looking at fructose and saying, what is the amount of fructose you can eat before you start developing things like fatty liver. And, I think the study that I looked at, I mean, I haven't looked this well, so I may be off on that, but it was like, a gram per kilogram of body weight on an animal. And does that translate directly to human? And if you did, you'd say, well, then it's like for an average person, 75 grams or something like that. So if you're getting 75 grams of sugar a day, which is a decent amount, you're going to have problems. And I think most people at that level would see problems. And so here's the thing there's so many avenues you can go on this topic. But one thing, when we see like concerns around meat and some of the metabolites from digestion of meat causing gut problems, colorectal cancer, they talk about, and they say, well, it could be related to heme, or, it could be related to these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, but it could be related to things like TMAO, trimethylamine oxide. And what we're seeing is that may be a concern if the gut is broken. If you've got a dysbiotic gut, a dysfunctional gut, a hyperpermeable gut, then you see, or we see that in chronic kidney disease too. These TMAO levels accumulate only in that situation. So if you're putting meat into a high sugar diet and that's causing gut issues, then you might have these downstream second effects. And so I don't know. I mean, again, if you can eat, if you eat like, I know some people are eating, 100 grams, 50 grams of honey, and I don't know how much fruit, and for them that may be just a level enough where their gut stays healthy and it's not causing problems, and the meat doesn't cause a problem. But then we get to why there's so many people with broken guts that you see all the time. I know that's one of the things you specialize in, and so it's probably because they've been eating enough of whatever foods it is, and sugar may be part of that. You get these people at repeat where they're just saying, hey, drink Coca-Cola, the Mexican Coke, because it's got real sugar in it or something. This stuff, which I think is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, and then you start developing this gut dysbiosis, and then you put meat on top of that, then you might start seeing some of these potentially deleterious compounds. And so I think it's, it's not the meat itself, it's the environment that it's put in. Some people would say it's not the meat, but it's how you cook it. I have disagreements with that just based on the lack of data that supports that, and the fact that we've been cooking meat over fire for 400,000 to 2 million years, depending on who you read. So yeah, I mean, I think that the whole issue with can sugar cause problems with a meat diet potentially? I don't know though. I mean, like I said, I think it makes sense to, I've always been supportive of, hey, be objective about what you're doing. If you're eating some, 2 scoops of honey every day and 3 bananas and you're fine, good. I mean, that's fine. Great for you. But I mean, to say that everybody must do that in order to save their thyroid or prevent gluconeogenesis or whatever kind of wacko craziness they say is so horrible, I disagree with that, because I've just seen too many people that don't do that are literally thriving, best they've been in their health in their life. So
yeah, and I appreciate.
I just go to.
No, and I just appreciate everything you're saying right now, because I'm on the same page. I think that as we heal, if we want to be flexible and try other things and not feel limited or bogged down by a diet, I think it's great if you want to introduce vegetables and fruits. If you, like you're saying, you're objective and you can handle it and your body can tolerate it. If you were always metabolically healthy, those are great things. I think the difference is and my heartburn over all of it was when people are saying, no, you cannot do this diet, because if you do, here are the risks for your health. And so this diet is adverse for your condition. And that's where it was so sad, because I just posted this not too long ago, but most Americans, they don't have a lot of money to eat the healthiest foods. But if you are a carnivore, you can eat really cheap meats and eggs and bacons and still heal. And And it's just a diet that if people could hear about it and hear how amazing and efficacious it is, then it's a way that we can wake up society, that we can all heal. But when you take it away, so if someone brand new came into the space and started learning about carnivore, they would think, depending on who you're listening to, that you need to include a little bit of fruit or a little bit of carbs, because otherwise you will ruin your thyroid. And Dr. Ben Bickman just said that he learned not too long ago that levothyroxine, the thyroid medication, is the number 2 selling medication in America, or maybe the world. And so if you know that, and then if someone's coming into carnivore thinking their thyroid will get ruined, they're going to leave the carbs in. And I wonder, could we have allowed them to really heal first before they start incorporating back some of those carbohydrates?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And like I said, if you do 3-6 months of a pure strict carnivore diet and you heal, and then you want to add something in later, that makes sense. But to say that you cannot do a carnivore diet without eating this specific cut of meat, or, I had the other issues with organ meats, and you have to have fruit and honey and that sort of stuff. I mean, I think it's disingenuous. I mean, we have this Harvard study where they just published, and I think the longest person in that study was 28 years. I mean, 28 years on the diet. Okay. So, I mean, they ruin their thyroid. I don't know, but I mean, I didn't see their thyroid numbers, but I mean, I suspect not. Right. And, I think it's one of those things where when you overcomplicate things and you make them very expensive unnecessarily, it's a problem. But back to, like you mentioned, can you do this and add this and that? One of the things we're doing with the companies, we're using AI to solve some of those problems. So when we start looking at someone with psoriasis, they may have a different level of tolerance to foods than someone with, say, diabetes or someone with depression.
Right.
You can throw carnivore in there as a baseline elimination diet, and yes, it's often very effective. But like you pointed out, some people need to do more. For some people, it's exercise. For some people, it's sleep management. For some people, it's light exposure. For some people, it's stress mitigation. For some people, it can be some of these nutritional adjuvants that you might put in there. And so what we're trying to find out is what's different between one person and the other based on their demographics. A 52-year-old premenopausal female with depression and diabetes may be very different than a 17-year-old with those same conditions, a 17-year-old male of, different ethnic background. There's maybe very different food things that are problematic. And so we will figure that stuff out. And we're already figuring a lot of that out. And that allows us to, sort of give people a little more flexibility and maybe tailor things a little quicker for them.
Yeah. And I think that's really smart, because even in the space, you'll see trends. And I mean, the carnivore space. So I work with a lot of women between like 30s and 60s, and then they are a different population, especially if they have a little bit of weight to lose, versus the people that are like CrossFitters that decided to do carnivore because they just wanted a cleaner diet and their needs seem to be different. So I do see that. And so that would be really smart to use AI to figure that out for people so that, it's just a lot more customized as soon as they even start to eat a carnivore diet. I think that's really smart.